we're gonna look at digital painting tutorials. I'm gonna look at painting lips today. I've just deconstructed one of my paintings that I've done in the past and erased the lips, and I'm going to repaint them. So what we got on the left is my reference pick, because when you're doing realistic, hyperreal, this is not hyperreal, but if you're getting started, there's no problem having a photo reference, and until you get an idea of, in your mind, what things look like. Obviously, if you're going to draw something, you need to know and remember what it looks like. So unless you've had practice, you really need a photo reference. So what we're going to do is my photo reference. Normally, instead of just copying a photo straight off, I'll actually I will edit it, maybe up the contrast, change the color slightly. So what I've done here is, if you can see on the left, I've duplicated the layer, set it to overlay, so it actually just ups the contrast. Because if you want your paintings to really come to life, use a lot of contrast for depth, and you'll see in some later tutorials where I look at doing depth of field with things out of focus, and it just makes it, you're painting on a 2D surface, so you can make it pop, give it depth and pop in 3D by using mainly shading, highlights, and depth of field with blurs and lens blurs and that sort of thing. So just do that, and I put a bit of this one here is a photo filter, and it just gives it a nice warm color. So I've done this in the past, and now I'm ready to paint these lips here. So I can show you what it looked like when I finished it previously. Not there. Okay, so that's getting to, if I turn off the sketch layer, there we go. So that's what I'm going for. So I'll turn that back off. There we go. There we go. So, alright, we're back to there. So what I normally do is, if you're gonna imagine painting the lips, you don't start off with the lips. You want to get the surrounding face colored pretty well, because obviously I use quite a big brush for that, so about that size. So I'm just painting with this. I'm actually painting on a Wacom, and I all the let's go ahead and create a new layer here. Oops, here we go. All the pressure controls the amount of ink that goes down. If I press hard, if I press soft, and then hard. So all I'm controlling here is the diameter of the brush. And what you'll find is a lot of people use all sorts of different brushes. I pretty much just use the one brush, change the size of it. So if I'm doing here, I go down to about 3 pixels. And if I'm doing skin, you start off with a very big brush, and that makes it smooth. And the reason you do the surrounding skin first is because when you do the lips and you start using a big brush around it, you're going to paint back over your lips, unless you do it on a different layer. So I have my sketch layer. Now I'm going to just start painting in here, a basic idea. What am I doing here? That's kind of funny. There's a pass-through. Make that short as normal. White. Alright. There we go. And that's so I'm picking up the color from that, and why is that? That's because I'm on the wrong layer. I'm going to flatten that. Alright, I'll duplicate those. Flatten those. Merge layers. There we go. So. And you normally start off with dark colors first. Then you go to the light. Because if you're doing highlights, if you can imagine doing highlights first, now you got to do the underlying color, and you're just going to paint over your highlights. So you always work, even with, especially with hair, you start from dark and work your way through to highlights. And always when you're painting, it looks like crap when you start off with. Yeah, the other layers, yeah, we can, I can show you the other layers later. I haven't saved all the layers. I work often just a few layers, but if I get too many, I flatten some and start working on that. So you're just doing very crude to start off with. Normally it might take me about an hour to do these lips. So I'm going to be on for about an hour. So we'll see what we can do. Now I'm starting to lose my sketch layer. So what I've done is I've duplicated my sketch layer and inverted it. So if I'm doing dark stuff, like with the eyes, I can see it's hard to see your dark sketch layer, so you put on your light sketch layer. The other thing is, if you look at sort of this, it looks, you know, it looks pretty detailed, but when you actually get up, it's actually pretty crude. Because at this level, when you zoom up, you don't have to go into really great detail, because you're not going to be able to see it. When you actually step back, it looks way better. So don't spend too much time on really fine detail. Always look out, zoom back, and if you go, yep, that looks pretty sweet, then you're doing alright, because you can spend way too much time doing detail. Let's turn that on, make sure you're back on the right layer. Okay, you need my volume up, eh? Alright. Okay, let me up the volume a bit here. How's that sound? Is that a bit better? Thanks for the feedback. Don't feel bad about sampling from the photograph. I mean, you can mix the colors here if you really want to do that. It's not. I mean, some people might consider it cheating, but if that was the case, then everyone would be able to do this. And the thing is, everyone can. It just requires practice. And the reason you do this is because, and drawing from photographs, is eventually you won't have to. That's the goal, and you'll be able to do I could draw a horse, but if I haven't drawn a horse before, how do the legs bend and all that sort of thing. That's why I failed art in high school. Teacher didn't like you drawing from photographs. And well, she didn't like you drawing realistic paintings anyways. It was all abstract, but eventually you learn enough to not have to draw from photographs. However, if you're doing hyperreal, then you'd have to have a pretty good memory to draw from your, because really you're drawing from a photograph in your mind. So you're just getting the basic idea. The other thing is what you'll notice in some of my upcoming videos, I think, is sometimes it just doesn't come together and you end up biffing the painting or the drawing. You don't always get it right. Sometimes you just, my father, he's a great artist and he does oil paintings, and some of his paintings he just painted over because he didn't like them. And so don't get disheartened. All it is just practice. So I'll get rid of the sketch layer for now. Another thing my uncle taught me is if you're going from a using a reference, you would have your reference on one side and what you're drawing on the other, and you draw something and then you go back and forth. You go look back, like this, and you'll start to see differences. And then you correct it a bit, and then you look back and forth again. It's just like, when you animate, you draw two lines, you might think they look exactly the same, and then you start flipping between two of them, and then you'll notice slight differences. And that's a little trick when you're using a reference, just looking back and forward. So I'm trying to hurry this up here. Right, so where's my sketch layer? Okay. Another trick you can do is Leonardo and Michelangelo and all these guys used grids. So if we enable a grid, I don't want that fine, so on a PC it's Control and the comma, or if you go up to Window, you go View, Show and Grid, and you can control your grid by going into Preferences, Grids, where is it? There we go. Guides, Subdivisions. So choose your grid line every 2 centimeters, subdivisions 4. I'll do 1 or 2. There we go. So now I got my reference and I got this. Now I have noticed that because my picture, my reference, is not the same dimensions as my image, as my canvas, the grid's in the wrong place. So what I'm going to have to do is move this so I think I get it in the same. Actually, the image is not even the same resolution, which causes another problem. So what I probably want to do, in this case, I'm going to have to do a bit of guesswork here. So actually it's pretty close. It's about there, I think. Yeah, the grids don't quite match up. So the grids aren't really going to help me in this one. Oh, it might do. Just gives me a bit of elevation here. Alright, so... Flapjack. Yeah, the idea is I'm going to do tutorials. And I can take suggestions. But these paintings usually take about 20 hours. And so what I'm not going to do is subject you to 20 hours worth of video. But on DeviantArt, most of the guys are interested in the tutorials, like how to paint lips and how to paint noses and eyes, and actually how to use Photoshop. So thought I'd try that out. But if you have some suggestions, by all means, let me know. So what we got here is the lips here come down quite a bit, so I need to bring this down a bit further. Probably needs to come down here, and then it comes up, and then so I'm not worrying too much about detail at the moment. And I've got a snap to grid, I think. There we go. I'll turn that grid off, that's annoying. I'll leave it on that one. Now you notice I've got a smaller brush, That's where you start to get a bit of texture in things. Always paying attention to your shading, 'cause that's what really pops it out. Now for the highlights, I normally put another layer just so I can turn them off. I just want to see what it looks like with a bit of highlight on here. I may not keep this. And I actually want white here. As you can see, it's not exactly massively high detail. Still got a lot of work to do, but so it's just starting to give me an idea of the shape. Because I'm using a different layer, I can turn this off. I just want to see if I've got the basic shape of the lips right. So I can turn that on and off. Now what I'll do is I'll leave that on, but I'll paint on the layer below it. And that way, I'm not scribbling over my highlights. Do I paint the picture in the background? Yes. That's on both on YouTube. On YouTube, I've got the speed painting videos of all these. So this one and that one, you'll see it's time lapse, about 2.5 to 3 minutes. And there's close-ups on my DeviantArt, as well as on DeviantArt I've got static tutorials. Okay, so not quite red enough, pink enough. So what I might do is I can get this and do a color. So the color. Alright, so what I'm going to do is you can very slightly, ever so slightly, painting, so it's just very light. So if you're finding your painting is a little bit, you need a bit more red, say in the cheeks, I've got it on color, and I can just very lightly do that, and that just punches it out. What you probably see on your feed is it actually, I'm just looking at it now, it's not as not as red on the stream, but that's calibration of the monitors and all sorts of things. All sorts of things affect that, and video compression and all sorts. So, right, so I'll take that back off color. What you'll also find in my tutorials, I don't use a lot of different tools, effects. It's basically pretty much the brush, one brush, a couple of filters, and that's basically it. Most of it's painting. Like even painting hair. I hate painting hair, and I do it one strand at a time, because I find that brushes that do multiple strands, it just doesn't look natural. So unfortunately you can do it very quickly, but it's a bit of a pain, especially if you're doing beards and stubble and all that sort of thing. Now what I should do is probably use the controls on the Wacom, but I just haven't got used to them. I still use a keyboard. And I don't, the Wacom that I use isn't the touch version, because I've experienced I've tried out the touch on the Wacoms, and they just seem slow and unresponsive. You know, it's quicker just to zoom rather than mucking around with, because you got to touch, zoom, or twist, zoom, and I could have done it in half the time with a mouse or just with a keyboard. So, and they're more expensive. Okay, we're starting to get a bit of shape there. So it's just building up the contrast between the light and dark, because you don't want the lips to look flat. Now the other thing is, I've seen some people do some pretty amazing painting with a mouse, and I used to paint with a mouse. Well, not really. I'll try to, but if you can, get a tablet of some kind, and you don't have to go full out on a Cintiq or anything like that. $100 you can get a bamboo, Wacom bamboo, and that'll do the trick. Half the paintings I did on my YouTube channel are done with the old, I had an Intuos 5, I think, which was, I think, second generation Wacom. So you can see it's starting to look not bad. And again, it looks quite different from what I've painted before. Where's what I painted before? It's this one. See, quite a bit different. So, a lot of work to go yet. So, sometimes I'll get this far and then I'll start doing the nose, some of the hair. Usually have a break and then come back to this. Hopefully this will turn out alright. It shouldn't be too bad. Okay, what I might do is saturation. So it's all about just that contrast, light and dark. Building up those layers of color and turn that off actually so we can see what I'm doing. Another thing is, it doesn't matter if it's not exact, because it's pretty hard to get exact anyways, but then it's something unique, something you've done. That's usually why I edit the original source first and sort of make it a bit more unique. One thing you'll notice too, that the lips aren't symmetrical, and neither is the face. The nose isn't. Normally faces aren't symmetrical, so don't worry too much about symmetry, unless it looks a bit weird. But these lips are, that's what's great about these lips, is they're definitely not symmetrical. And when you put in a bit of randomness, especially when you're doing hair and stuff, it just makes it look more natural, less fake. So I'll be doing these tutorials, digital painting tutorials, on a regular basis. I'm still determining the schedule for that, but I'm also going to do photo manipulation tutorials, and it's not basic stuff, it's more advanced, because you hardly ever see advanced tutorials on photo manipulation. Simple Family, yeah. Now it takes about 20 hours for this one. The old guy that I painted, that's about 50 hours. But that was a bit of a mission. And one of my tutorials will be on painting wrinkles and stubble and all that, and bloodshot eyes and all that, so which is fun. Do I paint commissions? Yes, I've done a few. I usually charge by the hour, so yeah. Basically, what it consists of, if someone wants a commission, they'll send in a photograph if it's a member of their family. They'll send in a photograph, and sometimes, normally digital photograph. It could be blurry. It could have part of the photo missing. It might be an old photograph, and they want it repainted, or it's a black and white photograph and want it restored, or a color version of it. And so I assess that and give a quote for that, and then go for it. But yeah, you'll see in the photo manipulation tutorials, how to fix old photographs, but also do fantasy scenes and sci-fi scenes and all that with relatively easy. And it's the same principles that they use in the movies, and like, you just can't trust any photos you see in advertising or on the net. You know, comes out on the news, I can't believe this cover was photoshopped and all that. Everything's photoshopped. It doesn't matter what it is, it's all photoshopped. And some of it, I mean, if you can tell it's photoshopped, the person doing it is probably not too hot on Photoshop. That's where some reporters get into trouble. They've doctored photographs that they've put in the media. Well, if you can tell it's Photoshop, then you should have learned to use Photoshop better. So the key to using Photoshop is you shouldn't be able to tell it was Photoshop. So it's funny when they sometimes you see someone stand by an image. No, it's not Photoshop. You can tell it's not Photoshop. Well, that doesn't mean it's not Photoshop. It just means the person evaluating it either lacks a bit of skill in that area, or the person that actually photoshopped the image is pretty dang skillful in Photoshop. And it is a bit of a compliment when you do a painting and people don't realize that it's a painting. I like it from a technical perspective, the challenge. Yeah, my art teacher said, I don't want you to draw like a photograph, because I could just give a camera to someone and they can, anyone can take a photograph. My argument was, yeah, but anyone can take a photograph, but not everyone can take a blank piece of paper or a blank canvas and make it look like a photograph. That sort of the skill in art has sort of been forgotten a bit. Not saying that's the only way to do art, but it's almost like realism is frowned upon these days. But it does have its place, I think, more in graphic design and movies and stuff like that. It's very handy, especially matte painters and things. Like in Star Wars, the first, Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back. A lot of the backgrounds are hand painted. The Ewok forest, A lot of the scenes, they were all hand painted, and then they use often painted on glass, and then the areas where the action is, that would be clear. And when they layered the films, because it wasn't digital back then, they'd have the live action in these areas and you just couldn't tell. So, and I don't know, that's one thing I probably should have done, is kept track of how long I've been painting for. We'll just go until I finish these lips in. I'm not sure when I started. I think it was about half an hour, 40 minutes ago. So you're always zooming in and out, just seeing what the overall look, how it looks, where you can improve it. Because the way I paint, it's very messy when you get in up close, so it can be hard to see. Another thing in art, if you're drawing sort of realism, a tendency, a lot of when you're starting out, or beginners, or when you're pencil drawing on that, you would draw an outline. So you know, the lips would have an outline, there would be an outline for the nose, an outline for the, and that was actually my uncle that told me when I was doing some pencil drawings. He goes, look at everything around you. Things don't have an outline, so why are you drawing an outline? And so I thought about that, and so it's a challenge to draw, you know, a face, a portrait, or an object without an outline, because outlines are, yeah, pretty standard in comic drawing and comic art and manga and all that. But in realism, there's no outlines. So don't draw outlines. Unless, like in this case, she has done her makeup and got an outline around her lips for the lipstick, or that sort of stuff. But don't draw outlines that aren't meant to be there. So I reckon that's getting pretty close. What do we get here? Hey, Thanks for the donation, Simple Family. And also Flapjack for following. Great to have you on board. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to, because I'm playing the Twitch playlist through my browser, because they offer some royalty-free music. Otherwise, once this video is saved, it disables all the sound, and then you won't be able to hear my tutorial. So it's not my usual music, but I had to turn off all my video browser sounds so I don't get these alerts coming through, but I'll try and keep my eye on these. And you can see the quality of this image I'm drawing from. It's not that great, so now now what often happens is when you're painting, you accidentally start painting on different layers. It's no big deal. So that was just meant to be my highlight, but I've actually started painting dark on that. That's no big deal. So all you do is you just create another layer. And then when you get too many layers, you just keep carrying on. Just editing the layout of a few of those things. Yeah, we're getting there. The other thing is I'm working on quite a large canvas. The image size for this is 9100 by 11,500 pixels, 300 pixels per inch, which is quite large. How many inches is that? 30 by 38. So, and the reason I paint at such a high res is because I sort of planned for this to be printed on an A0 or an A1 sized print, which is big. Even though it may not, I might only print it out as a letter or A3 or something like that. But if I use a low res image, then it's difficult to go up. As soon as you start blowing it up, it gets all pixelated and everything. Plus it's hard to get into the fine detail, because the more you go in, it gets more pixelated. So I paint high res, and then I can basically print it at any size I want. If you've got the obviously the capacity on your computer. This image is a 2 gig image, but if you're just sketching, you can do it 1920 by 1080. That's 72 pixels per inch just for sketching. But have a play around. If you think you're only going to do A3 sized images, or that's the res of your image, but at 300 pixels per inch. And I'll explain pixels and pixels per inch and enlarging and expanding images on another tutorial. It can sound a little confusing, but it's actually quite simple once you get the grasp of it. And then there's nothing more frustrating than going to use an image for a print and finding that you've done it too low res. And the great thing is, when you paint, it turns out different every time. This is turning out different to the one when I painted last time, which is not big. Yeah, it might turn out better, it might turn out worse. Not too fast. I haven't actually painted anything I haven't done any painting in a couple of months actually. So probably a little rusty. Actually, my last real painting was May, I think. But it's just like riding a bike. Yeah, if you haven't ridden a bike in a few years, you pretty much get straight back on it. You might be a little wobbly, but doesn't take you long to get back into it. Actually, until about 3-4 years ago, I hadn't done any painting for 20 years, and I thought it would take me ages to get back into it. But about 6 weeks, and I was there. And you can see nothing's uniform. A lot of almost like random scribbling. it all adds to just that realism. I gotta make sure I don't sing. Cause then I'll lose you fellas. Cause I can't sing. I'll get my mate John to do that. There's no real quick way of doing this. It can seem a bit of a drag, but you're just doing minor adjustments. So I normally speed it up for YouTube. What was that? there. Get rid of that. Alright, let's try that again. So sometimes there's a lot of working and reworking. I don't think there'll be too much with this one, so this one wasn't quite right. Now this color dodge can be really good for doing highlights. lightly. So how we're looking. Needs a little bit more shape here. Almost there, I think. I think that's almost there. A little bit more, but then I'm starting to work on the face. I think for this exercise, there we go. I think we might be done. Just a bit more. There we go. So that was a quick tutorial on how to paint lips. I think the next one I will probably do eyes. So thanks for joining me, and please follow, and catch you later.